Hello everyone, we are going to learn about quality evaluation of foods, both objective and subjective method. So in our home, whenever a food is made or when you are going out and having food, we constantly evaluate the food. We evaluate the food based on its taste, color, appearance, smell, texture, everything. Even for the packaged foods that we buy, we look into its packaging, how attractive the advertisement is, how attractive the labels are, what are the nutritive information that the particular food is having. All these evaluations we do. Okay, so objective and subjective evaluation is a assessment method to determine the food quality. Okay, so for most probably or most usually, food assessment is done both in industry and also in our consumer level. Okay, so there are two types of objective and subjective methods. So first one, we'll look into the food quality evaluation. So food quality evaluation involves assessing a food based on the various factors. Like I already told, the sensory attributes, the flavor, texture, the nutritive composition, everything. Okay. Microbiological and toxicological contaminants are also evaluated through food quality assessments. So basically, food quality assessment is divided into two, which is objective and subjective assessment. So why we are doing it is because we need to understand whether the consumer will like it, and also we need to know what is there in that food, like the nutritive composition, like the allergen factors, like the microbiological load that that particular food is having. Okay. So it is usually done to ensure the food safety and also the acceptability of the consumers, whether we are producing a new food. Okay, we'll look into Lay's. Okay, so Lay's is having various flavors which is coming up every day. So we'll be looking at, we'll be giving for evaluation, we'll be looking into the acceptability. Certain flavors we might not be liking, certain flavors we'll be having a good liking, certain flavors we'll be liking it, but we'll want it in a different concentration or slightly make it different. Okay, such kind of acceptance is usually done or is usually understood through objective and subjective assessment. Okay, so we'll look into the different assessments that we do. Okay, subjective evaluation is usually done on a person's point of view, which means we do it based on our sensory attributes. The 5 sensory attributes are eyes, nose, tongue, which is for taste, ears and skin. So based on our sensory organs, we are assessing our food. Okay, so subjective evaluation is also known as sensory evaluation, which relies on our senses to assess the attributes like appearance, texture, flavor. So we do that assessment on our day-to-day life, isn't it? Whenever we are having a food, whenever we are getting a food from outside, whenever we are cooking a food, even while we are cooking a food, we usually assess the food based on the color, texture, flavor, smell, everything. Okay, so such kind of evaluation which is done based on one person's perspective or based on a person's sensory organs is known as sensory evaluation or subjective evaluation. So as it is done based on a person, sensory evaluation will be differing from individual to individual. Okay, so sensory panels, there are trained individuals evaluate specific sensory attributes like color, flavor and texture. You might be familiar with tea tasters or coffee tasters. So there's people trained to test and assess that particular food group, maybe a tea or coffee or different kinds of food, which they'll be specifically trained to assess that particular food. Okay, so consumer taste test. Usually we might be getting assessment in supermarkets or hypermarkets there, where they'll be bringing 2 or 3 types of Maggi or Lays, and they will be asking us to rate that particular food. We can see this even in exhibitions when we are going. Okay, people will be asking us to rate that particular food. So that evaluation is also subjective evaluation. Next one is objective evaluation, where we use instruments and analytical methods. Like if you see a food package, behind that there will be nutritive information like energy value, carbohydrate value, protein value, ash value, everything. And such kind of evaluation is usually the objective evaluation. Not only that, but also microbiological testing, the physical testing, that is what is the texture of the food, the texture analysis of the food, the viscosity of the food, the sugar concentration of the food, which is a Brix value. All those things come under objective evaluation when we use an instrument to assess that particular food. Okay, such kind of assessment is known as objective evaluation. Example is moisture content, pH, fat, microbiological, all those things. We use spectrophotometry for analyzing the color. We use texturometers to measure the textures. We use microbial counts or microbiological tests to assess the microbial load in that particular food. Such kind of assessment is known as objective evaluation. Okay, when you look into the advantages and disadvantages, as I already told you, subjective evaluation gives direct information regarding the consumer perception. Imagine you do all the microbial load, you do the food analysis, food concentration, the moisture content, the proximate analysis, all of that for a particular food, but you do not do the consumer acceptance. We can't be sure whether that product is going to be acceptable by the consumers. Okay, so neither can we fully depend on subjective evaluation or sensory evaluation, or nor can we depend fully on objective evaluation. We need a combination of both subjective and evaluation in assessing a food group. Okay, in objective evaluation, it is giving us measurable data, like the energy value is 500 kilocalorie per 100 gram, like carbohydrate is so and so, the protein is 10 grams. So such kind of measurable data we will be getting from objective evaluation. Okay. Again, the advantages in subjective evaluation, we can use it to develop products that appeal to the consumers. So we already have a food, but the consumers are saying that we need a slight change, or the spiciness is too much, or the sweet content is too much. So depending on the consumers need, we can change the product. Okay, only we can change it with assessment, with subjective assessment. Okay, next one is for objective evaluation. It is used for routine quality control and product development. We are producing a product. Okay, at some point we need to recheck if that particular product is having so and so, is meeting so and so requirements, like, or is having so and so nutritional component, or is having the minimum amount of microbial load, or the least amount of microbial load, whether in the process if there is any mistake, that there will be a difference. So we can do objective evaluation on a routine basis to keep the quality of the food equal. Okay, the disadvantages, as it is subjective, our taste is different from individual, isn't it? My taste will not be suitable for you. So like individualistic differences will be there. So we can't completely rely on subjective assessment, and it is also time consuming and expensive. For objective evaluation, may not capture consumer preferences, as I told you, may require specialized equipment and expertise. All these equipments is highly costly, and also we need a trained person to assess all these things. Okay. Okay, as I told you, we can't depend on one particular assessment like subjective or objective. We need a combination of both in order to make a good product. As a sensory assessment can be validated through objective assessment. In some cases, objective data can be correlated with subjective sensory data to gain a deeper understanding of the food quality. Okay, next, looking a little more deeper into sensory evaluation. So sensory evaluation is usually done in industries. It's usually done by a trained panel members. So the panel members are having a certain quality that they need to have to be panel members, like they should be unbiased. Like you can't have a vegetarian to evaluate a non-vegetarian food. You can't have a person with allergy to evaluate a food which is having that allergen content, or a person who is coming from a different cultural aspect can't evaluate a food from a different cultural aspect. Okay, such kind of people, they will be having a bias towards that particular food, which will affect the assessment. There are other qualities also that particular person should have. He should have a good appetite. He should not be having any medical history. He should not be a smoker, alcoholic, or a patient. Such kind of requirements are there for a panel member. And also he should be having a good physical and mental state. The assessment also should be done in a good physical, psychological and good environment. Else the assessment will become biased, or you'll not be getting a good assessment. Okay. Homogeneous sampling should be done, as you can't be giving different concentration of sample. All the concentrations of that particular sample or that food sample should be homogeneous. Okay. So in sensory evaluation or subjective assessment, there are 3 different types of assessment. One is discrimination, second one is rating, and third one is sensitivity test. Okay, this is usually done. You might be familiar with certain ones like ranking test and hedonic, but these are basically done in a industry level or when you're doing a research program. Okay, so in discrimination, it's usually carried out by small group of trained judges. The judges are asked to describe differences in a sample presented to them in any of the following ways. Okay, so we are making we can take Lays. We are taking Lays with 2 or 3 different flavors, or the same flavor with different concentration. Okay, so such different concentrated Lays will be given to the panel members, and the panel members are asked to identify either the odd one out, or we will be giving one reference. The panel member is asked to identify the sample which is close to the reference one. Okay. So such kind of discrimination assessment is known as discrimination test. The first one is triangle test. As you know, triangle shape, 3 points, 3 samples will be given, of which 2 of them will be similar, and the panel member is asked to identify which one is the odd one out. Okay, you have to look into this. 3 samples, 1 different and 2 identical. The panel member only has to identify the odd one out sample. In the next one, which is duo-trio test, again 3 samples are used. 2 of them are identical and 1 is odd one out, but the panel member is already told which one is kept as a reference. So 1 is kept as a reference, and the panel member is asked to identify the other 2 samples which is closer to or which is similar to the reference sample. So such kind of assessment is known as duo-trio test. This test also uses 3 samples, 1 different and 2 identical. The first, the panelist is presented with one of the identical sample, which is known as the reference one. Subsequently, the other 2 are presented in random order. The panelist has to match one of these to the reference sample. Okay. Next one is paired comparison test. 2 samples in a pair are presented to the panelist, which is asked to indicate if there is any difference between them. In paired comparison, only 2 samples. The panel member is asked to differentiate or was asked to find if there is any difference in them. Okay, that is paired comparison test. So in discrimination test, we have 3. One is triangle test, duo-trio test, and paired comparison test. In triangle test and duo-trio, there are 3 samples. In paired comparison, there are only 2 samples. In triangle test, again, 1 different and 2 identical. He is asked to identify the odd one out. The duo-trio test, again 3 samples, 2 identical, 1 odd. The panelist is asked to identify the one which is closer to the reference or which is similar to the reference one. Paired comparison, again only 2 samples in a pair. He is asked, the panel member is asked to identify which is having the difference. Okay. The next one is rating test, which is of a quantitative and very often used for consumer testing. We can have, we usually get these type of tests in our supermarket survey or any other survey for that matter. Okay, where we are rating a particular food, or even employee rating we are giving, like moderately, dislike moderate, all those things. Such kind of rating based on numbers we are giving. Okay, first one is ranking test, where different samples are given, maybe 2 or 10 samples are given. The panel member or the consumer is asked to rate or rank that particular food from 1 to 10. All the 10 samples from 1 to 10. Okay. Maybe different attributes will be given, like flavor, color, or texture. Second one is hedonic rating scale. Usually for most of the research purposes, when you are doing sensory analysis or even on a daily basis, we usually have hedonic rating scale, where 9 or 5 point hedonic scale is used, from extremely to dislike extremely. Extremely likely to dislike extremely. So for kids and all, we usually give these images and ask to rate that particular food, or even for customer care and all, we usually do these kind of ranking. Next again is numerical scoring test, where you will be giving what numbers, and we will be adding all these values, and we will be numerically rating that particular food. Composite scoring is when 1 sample or 2 sample, we will be rating that particular food for different attributes like appearance, color, taste. So for maybe for sample 1, we will be giving 5 points for appearance. For sample 2, we will be only giving 3. In color again 4 or 5, taste again 4 or 5, and we will be adding all these values. And based on the highest value, we will be evaluating that particular food. Okay, this is from rating test, in which we have ranking test, hedonic test, numerical scoring, and composite scoring, 4 of them. Next one is sensitivity test. Sensitivity test we usually do if to find the different concentration of one particular food component, maybe like salt, sugar, or maybe we'll be adding food additives, and at what dilution or what concentration we are getting that after test. So these can only be done with highly trained panel members, for tea testers, for coffee tasters, or for people who are specifically trained for one particular food item. They'll be having high sensitivity to their taste buds. Okay, they'll be able to identify even 0.1 concentration and all. Okay, such kind of test is known as sensitivity test. First one is threshold test, where usually done with water with sugar or salt, with increasing or decreasing concentration will be given, and we will be asked to identify the concentration. We'll be literally given the unknown samples, and we can rank that particular food items based on the concentration. If we have high threshold or high sensitivity to our taste buds, we'll be able to rank it accordingly. Next one is dilution test. Again, sugar or any other food component will be diluted in different concentrations, and that food is given, and we have to rank them according to their dilution. Okay, this is usually done for highly trained faculty, where they will be able to understand the different concentrations. Okay, so this is about sensory test. Next one is again objective evaluation. So in sensory test, we have seen discriminative test, ranking test or rating test, and sensitivity test. So questions might come like what is do or try, or what is a discriminative test, or they will be giving the what the test is, and we have to find out the name of that particular test. Okay. Next one is objective evaluation. So it consists of various physical and chemical tests to measure physical features such as volume, viscosity, specific gravity, and chemical composition such as nutrients present and pH of the food. So most of the food which is available in the market, like the packaged food, if you look into the labels, you will be able to see the nutritive value calculation. All those tests are done using the objective evaluation, where we will be getting the concentration, nutrient concentration present in the food, the pH of the food, how the texture of the food is the food viscous or not, the concentration of butter, fat, everything we will be able to understand with objective evaluation. So these are the four different types of objective evaluation: chemical method, physiochemical method, physical methods, microscopic methods. In chemical methods, it's usually the laboratory methods like the proximate analysis. Proximate analysis means the moisture content of the food, the protein content of the food, the fat content of the food, the ash content of the food. Then again, so these four are known as the proximate analysis. Other than that, the carbohydrate, the sugar concentration, the nutrient concentration, the amino acids, the mineral concentration like calcium, sodium, everything is usually found by the chemical method of objective evaluation, which is usually done in the laboratory. Next one is physiochemical method, where we will be finding like pH, the salt concentration, the fat, the butter concentration in the milk, all those things. With a particular instrument, we will be able to directly find out the value. Such kind of methods is known as physiochemical methods. Second one is physical methods, which is we find out the physical property of the food, like the texture, viscosity, the with a penetrometer you'll be able to find out if the food is having a if the food is soft or not, if the food is having good rigidity. All those things we'll be able to find out. Such kind of method is known as physical method. Then microscopic method, where we will be able to find out the microscopic or the microorganism load, microbial load of that particular food, or the presence of certain bacteria. If we are testing probiotics, we need to find out if that particular probiotic is there, that particular helpful microorganism is present in that food. All those things we will be able to find out using microscopic method. Okay, this is some of the instruments which is used. So questions can come like the instrument used to measure sugar concentration, which is refractometer or bricks, or boiling hydrometer. So what you need to understand, or you need to study some of the instruments and what it is used for. I have only given 5, 6 here, but there are a lot more. You can get it through the notes. Okay, pH meter, measurement of hydrogen ion concentration, digital salt meter, measurement of salinity, refractometer or bricks or boiling hydrometer, the measurement of sugar concentration. Butyrometer is usually the butter content of milk. Stromer viscometer, the viscosity or consistency of certain food products. Penetrometer, the tenderness of some food. Okay. Okay, we'll look into certain questions and we will wind up the session. So dash is an instrument used to find the percentage of sugar in the syrup, which is bricks, an indication of the percent of sugar in the solution. Bricks or boiling hydrometer gives directly the percentage of sugar by weight in the syrup. So usually bricks or this instrument is usually used in most of the food preservation food factories, like in ketchup, jam, jellies, or the normal sugars concentration when you are making gulab jamun, all those food products. We look into the sugar concentration. Okay, that value is known as bricks. The referred value for bricks, that is a sugar concentration, differs for different food, like ketchup, jam and all. Each food product is having its own bricks value, which is recommended by the FSSAI. Okay. Next question is, Joe is doing a test that consists of 3 food samples, 2 of which are the same and 1 that is different. Joe has to find odd one out. What kind of sensory evaluation test is that? What is it? Which is the triangle test. So you can get confused with triangle test and duo trio, but in both there are 3 samples, 1 odd one out and 2 similar one. And in triangle test, what we need to find is the odd one out, while in duo trio, 1 is given as the reference one and the panel member has to find out which is closer or which is similar to the reference one. Okay. What is sensory evaluation? So sensory evaluation is a scientific discipline used to measure the characteristic of food. So thank you for listening to the class. Many more videos are coming. So please subscribe and like to JLearn.